Right now, while you are watching this video, more than 900 million people are talking to the same piece of software, not once a month, every single week. That is more people than the entire population of Europe, more than the United States, Canada, and Mexico combined. And most of them have no idea what is actually happening behind the screen. Because ChatGPT is not really the story. It never was. The real story is the company that built it. A company that started as a non-profit, promised the world it would never chase profit, and is now worth more than most countries on Earth. This is the story of OpenAI, how it got here, what it secretly gave up to survive, and why the decisions being made inside this one company, right now, might quietly shape your future more than any government you can vote for. Let's go back to the beginning. In 2015, a small group of researchers and investors sat down to build something different. Not a typical Silicon Valley startup chasing an IPO, a nonprofit. Its mission, in their own words, was to make sure artificial intelligence would benefit all humanity, not just whoever built it first. One of the people in that room was a young entrepreneur named Sam Altman. Another was Elon Musk. They pledged together that this company would be different. No shareholders demanding profit, no pressure to cut corners, just a mission. But building artificial intelligence turned out to be one of the most expensive things a company can attempt. Training the kind of AI models OpenAI wanted to build required enormous amounts of computing power. Computing power costs money, not thousands of dollars, not millions, billions. And a nonprofit, by definition, cannot easily raise billions of dollars. Investors do not hand over massive sums of money expecting nothing back. So OpenAI faced a choice: stay true to the nonprofit mission and risk running out of resources before finishing what they started, or find another way. They chose another way. In 2019, OpenAI created something unusual, a capped profit company, sitting underneath the nonprofit. It would let investors put in money and eventually earn a return, but with limits, and a nonprofit board would still stay in control. It was a compromise, and like most compromises, it created a problem nobody could have predicted, because the moment OpenAI opened the door to outside investment, an offer came in that would change everything: Microsoft. But before we get to that, you need to understand something else. Something happening quietly, behind the scenes, that most people watching ChatGPT respond to their questions never think about. Somebody has to pay for all of this. And by 2026, the numbers behind that question have become almost impossible to comprehend. That's where the story gets interesting. Here's a number that sounds almost unreal. Site index equals 17-1. In 2026, OpenAI was valued at approximately $852 billion. /site, not million, billion. Site index equals 19-1. That came after raising $122 billion in a single funding round. /site, the largest private technology fundraise ever recorded. For comparison, that valuation puts OpenAI ahead of companies like McDonald's, Nike, and Disney combined. But here's what almost nobody talks about. OpenAI is still losing enormous amounts of money. Site index equals 11-1. According to financial estimates, OpenAI's cash burn is projected to hit approximately $27 billion in 2026 and climb to roughly $63 billion in 2027. Site index equals 11-1. The company is not expected to become cash flow positive until 2030. Site, read that again. A company worth more than most nations is burning through billions of dollars every single year, with no profit in sight for years to come. So how does a company survive that kind of spending? The answer takes us back to Microsoft. Microsoft didn't just write OpenAI a check. Site index equals 14-1. By 2026, Microsoft held roughly 27% ownership of OpenAI/Site on an as-converted basis. In exchange, Microsoft got something incredibly valuable: the right to build OpenAI's technology directly into its own products and a share of OpenAI's future revenue. For years, that partnership came with strict terms. OpenAI had to run almost exclusively on Microsoft's cloud servers. Microsoft, in return, would take a significant slice of everything OpenAI earned for years into the future. Then, in early 2026, something shifted. Site index equals 16-1. OpenAI and Microsoft renegotiated their entire partnership. /site index equals 19-1. OpenAI's revenue share payments to Microsoft were capped at $38 billion through 2030, a reduction of nearly $97 billion for what had originally been projected. /site index equals 16-1. OpenAI also gained the freedom to run its systems on other cloud providers, not just Microsoft's. /site. On the surface, that sounds like OpenAI winning back its independence. But nobody hands back tens of billions of dollars in future payments without getting something in return. And what OpenAI gave up quietly in that same restructuring is where the story takes its strangest turn. Because in October 2025, OpenAI made a decision that very few companies in history have ever made. It restructured itself permanently, converting its original for-profit arm into something called OpenAI Group PBC, a public benefit corporation. The nonprofit didn't disappear. It transformed into something called the OpenAI Foundation. Site index equals 11-1, and that foundation now holds equity in a for-profit business valued at roughly $130 billion /site, with the right to gain even more ownership as the company's valuation climbs higher. On paper, the nonprofit is still meant to be in control. The mission, AI that benefits humanity, not just shareholders, is supposed to still guide every decision. But a company burning $27 billion a year, backed by some of the largest corporations and investment funds on Earth, chasing a valuation approaching $1 trillion, how much of that original mission actually survives contact with that kind of money? That question became even more complicated in mid-2026, when reports emerged of conversations nobody expected. Site index equals 11-1. OpenAI began preliminary discussions about giving the United States government a stake in the company, reportedly around 5%, worth tens of billions of dollars, structured in a way similar to a sovereign wealth fund. /site. Think about what that actually means for a moment. A company that started as a nonprofit, promising to keep artificial intelligence safe and independent from any single government or corporation's control, was now in talks to hand a piece of itself directly to the U.S. government. No agreement has been finalized. The details remain unclear. But the mere fact that this conversation happened at all tells you something important. OpenAI is no longer just a technology company. It has become something closer to critical infrastructure, the kind of asset governments, corporations, and investors all want a piece of. And that brings us to the most important question in this entire story. If OpenAI is no longer fully independent, not from Microsoft, not from its investors, and possibly not from the U.S. government itself, then who exactly is deciding what the future of artificial intelligence looks like? The answer to that question is more complicated and more surprising than almost anyone expects. Here's what makes OpenAI's story different from almost every other tech giant in history. Most companies this size, Google, Amazon, Meta, built empires by selling advertising or products or subscriptions slowly over decades. OpenAI didn't have decades. It had to build one of the most expensive technologies ever created at breakneck speed, while competitors were racing to catch up at the exact same time. Site index equals 17-1. By 2026, ChatGPT alone was generating around $25 billion a year in revenue /site from subscriptions, from businesses paying to use OpenAI's technology inside their own products, and from a rapidly growing base of enterprise customers. That is a genuinely massive business. But it is still nowhere close to matching the amount of money OpenAI needs to keep building bigger, more powerful AI systems. So the company kept doing the only thing that could keep it alive, raising more money from more powerful partners, giving up more control with every round. Site index equals 16-1. Amazon committed up to $50 billion. /site index equals 18-1. NVIDIA committed $30 billion in equity, alongside a massive agreement to supply the computing hardware OpenAI's AI models run on. /site SoftBank, one of the largest investment firms in the world, helped lead the round that pushed OpenAI's valuation past $850 billion. Every one of these companies now has a direct financial stake in OpenAI's success. And every one of them, in some way, now has influence over decisions that will shape how artificial intelligence develops for the rest of us. This is the twist very few people talk about. We tend to imagine the future of AI being decided in a research lab by scientists quietly working on the next breakthrough. The truth looks different. The future of AI is being shaped just as much in boardrooms, funding negotiations, and multi-billion-dollar cloud computing contracts as it is in any laboratory. Site index equals 19-1. By mid-2026, ChatGPT had crossed 1 billion monthly active users. Site, an audience larger than almost any platform in human history, reached that scale in under 4 years. And every one of those users is, in a very real sense, part of the reason OpenAI can keep raising money, keep signing bigger contracts, and keep expanding its influence over how artificial intelligence gets built. Nobody planned for a nonprofit to become one of the most valuable private companies on the planet. Nobody planned for a mission built on keeping AI safe and independent to end up this deeply intertwined with the biggest corporations and possibly the government of the most powerful country on Earth. But that is exactly what happened. Slowly, quietly, one funding round at a time. Site index equals 12-1. As of mid-2026, OpenAI has still not announced a date for going public. Site, no stock ticker exists yet. No ordinary investor can simply buy a share, which means for now, some of the most important decisions about the future of artificial intelligence are being made entirely behind closed doors by a small group of executives, investors, and possibly soon government officials, while thousands of people watch it happen from the outside, using ChatGPT every single day without ever seeing any of this. Maybe that's the real lesson hiding inside the story. The tools that are quietly becoming part of our daily lives rarely stay in the hands of the people who first dreamed them up. They grow, they attract money, they attract power, and somewhere along the way, the mission that started it all gets renegotiated one contract at a time until the company that promised to serve humanity ends up serving something far more complicated. OpenAI still says its mission hasn't changed. Whether that's true might be the most important question of the next decade.